Welcome to episode number 104 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, iHeart Radio, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, you can hear this show. I hope you all are doing well this week. I was off last week for vacation, spent half the week up in the mountains in the Poconos with the family and the in-laws. Spent the other half down the beach with the family and my family, extended family. Good week all around, nice and relaxed, but I am ready to get back into it right here on Cheesesteaks and Controllers, and I hope you all are ready as well. Big week coming up this week for Overwatch League. We'll get into the Midseason Madness tournament and what that means for your Fusion, who are in. They did qualify last weekend and got a huge monkey off their back. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about all the big news that dropped while I was away last week. July 6th was a huge day for gaming news with 3 big-time announcements that we will get into. And then finally, I want to talk about a tweet that was making the rounds earlier this week about esports and how they can pull in the casual viewer. I think there's an interesting conversation to be had about that. But before we do any of that, we do what we always do and start with the 6 in 60 seconds. Riot Games has fined Team Solo Mid $75,000 and placed the company's CEO, Andy Din, on a 2-year probation after investigation into bullying allegations. Capcom has announced a playable demo of Street Fighter VI will be available at EVO 2022 in Las Vegas in August, with new announcements also teased for the event. Activision has banned a trophy designed by the Call of Duty League's New York subliners from being presented at the Major 4 event this weekend due to being, quote, too gruesome. Arcane, a League of Legends story, was nominated for 2 Emmy Awards, including Outstanding Animated Series, after its first season debuted last year on Netflix. Nintendo announced a new multiplayer Kirby game, Kirby's Dream Buffet, for later this year, while also confirming Bayonetta 3 will launch October 28th. And finally, Warner Bros. And Player First Games announced the Multiverses Open Beta will begin July 26th, with early access for closed beta participants starting July 19. Those are your 6 in 60 seconds. Yes, folks, those are your 6 in 60 seconds for the week. Very happy to hear the Multiverses Open Beta gets a date. I will be playing it next Tuesday on stream. You better believe that. And the Activision trophy story is very bizarre. So they're allowing... Activision doesn't provide trophies for the majors themselves, so the teams have been designing their own to give to the winner of the major. And the New York subliners came up with one where it was like the Statue of Liberty, but the head was split in half, and a Call of Duty skull, the trademark skull, was coming out of the middle of it. It was all gold. It was very striking, but Activision thought it was a little too much. So they said, you can give it out, but it's not going to be shown on our official stream at all. Give it out behind the scenes. So whichever team wins the trophy, they're going to be able to put it on their shelf, but that's basically about it. But moving on now to our first story of the show, it is time for the Overwatch League's Midseason Madness tournament. We are halfway through the year already. It is absolutely shocking, but here we are. So the way that this tournament works is there are 12 teams that have qualified for the Midseason Madness tournament, 8 from the western side and 4 from the eastern side. 4 of those teams have buys in the first round, 3 from the west, 1 from the east, all noted by point rankings in the individual conferences, and then they took the top 4 and they ranked them 1 to 4, and that's how the buys went out. The bracket is available on Overwatch League's website. We'll get into that. But before we do that, just want to go into the schedule and what's going to be happening for that coming up starting next week. Overwatch on a Monday, not something we'd be able to say for a very, very long time, and Overwatch in prime time. So Monday prime time, 7 p.m. Eastern time is when the tournament is going to start. Very, very exciting news there. We'll go through all the matchups shortly. But so there will be ways to earn new icons and sprays by using your Battle.net account through the YouTube channel, connecting your YouTube channel to your Battle.net account. You'll be able to earn Overwatch League Team Mascot sprays, home and away skins for Widowmaker, League tokens, which can be used to, I think, exchange for maybe boxes. I'm not quite sure how that works. Haven't quite done it yet. But then the Pick and Perfect bracket is also available online for Midseason Madness. If you nail every single prediction, including scores, perfect bracket gets you 50K, and the best bracket of the tournament gets 5K. Does not say that if you're the perfect bracket and the best bracket, you get 55. I assume not. But let's get into the schedule here. So actually, before we do that, let's talk about your Fusion. The Philadelphia Fusion were able to qualify for this event. They managed to pull out another 3-3 record for the excuse me, for the Midseason Madness qualifiers. I believe it was 3-3, but one of those wins, the most important win, if you ask me, came last week when they were able to finally get the monkey off their back, like I said before, and defeat the Seoul Dynasty 3-1 on a massive game by both MN3 and Zest. Just wonderful, wonderful play from these rookies, and they were finally able to get over the hump and take out those two, that team that they have had so much trouble with since 2020, all of 2021. Finally get a big win and get that losing streak off of their back. So they actually they came out rather slowly in the first weeks of the Midseason Madness, losing 3-2 in a reverse sweep to the LA Valiant, then dropping 3-1 to Chengdu. Came out the next week for the 3-2 win over the Hangzhou Spark, and then got blanked by Shanghai 3-0 on Saturday, July 2nd. And then last weekend, Friday, July the 8th, they beat Guangzhou 3-1, and then that big win over Seoul 3-1 on Sunday, July the 10th. So 3-3 once again. The map differential, I believe their map differential now for the year is somewhere around, let me just make sure, I think it's +2? Maybe -2? I have to check that out. I'm checking that out right now, loading up the standings as we speak. It is a +1, excuse me, not +2, +1. Math was a little off there. But they are still hanging into that 4th slot in the standings. They were able to qualify for the Midseason Madness because of that. For the entire regular season, they are sitting at that +1, a 24-23 map differential, 6-6 with 12 games played, as middle of the road as you could possibly get, dead center in the standings in the East. Seoul, Hangzhou, and Shanghai are all 9-3. Chengdu is 5-7. LA Valiant 3-9. Guangzhou 1-11. So they were able to qualify for this tournament, getting into the 4th slot. So what does that mean for them? So we are looking at the schedule here. We're checking out the matchups for the round 1. Again, San Francisco has a bye. Dallas has a bye. LA Gladiators have a bye. And the Seoul Dynasty have a bye. So the way this will work is the first 4 matches in round 1 will be played. And then I believe they're going to do what they normally do when the... Yes, they are. So when the 4 matches on Monday are decided, the top 4 seeds in order of San Francisco, Dallas, LA, and Seoul, I believe, will choose which team of the winners they wish to play, with the 4th seed being left with whichever one's not chosen. So first seed will choose from the 4, second seed will choose from the 3 remaining ones, third seed will choose from the remaining 2, and then the 4th seed will get that final one. Your matchups are 7 p.m. Monday night. Atlanta versus London is first. 10 p.m. Monday night, you're looking at Toronto and Shanghai. 11:30 p.m. Monday night, July 18th, you are looking at Philadelphia versus Hangzhou. Oof, that is a time and a half. And then 8:30 p.m., actually, a little bit earlier, Florida versus Houston. So 7, 8:30, 10, and 11:30 on Monday night, with your Philadelphia Fusion going last. Hooray. Still 4 great matches on a Monday night when you're just, coming out of the weekend. You want to watch some Overwatch League, you'll be able to do that. In fact, there will be matches all week long in the Midseason Madness tournament from Friday from Monday, leading all the way up to the finals, the grand finals, on Saturday night at 8:30 p.m. How do I think this is going to play out? Honestly, for your Fusion, they have a decent shot against Hangzhou. Hangzhou is their first opponent, as I said earlier. They have a decent record against Hangzhou so far this year. I believe it is a 2-2 split or a 2-1 Philadelphia. It's 2-1 Philadelphia so far. Hangzhou beat them May 29th, 3-2. June 3rd, Philadelphia got the win 3-1, and then July 1st, Philadelphia 3-2 as well. So they have been closely contested games. Only one of the 3 games has gone less than 5 maps, so you can expect a long, perhaps 4 to 5 map matchup here. It really could go either way. I am leaning towards a Fusion win. I am. But then I have a feeling they're going to run into Seoul, looking to avenge that loss in Winners Round 2. I do not expect that Seoul would pass up the opportunity to choose Philadelphia if they get it. Now, if Seoul is the 4th seed like I think it is, they may not get the chance, as the Fusion may go earlier. But if we do drop to Seoul, I do not like our chances there. Luckily, this is double elimination, and runs can happen. But I would think I'm going to predict at least 1 win. I think we can get past Hangzhou, and then we might get 1 more win after that. But honestly, I think that's going to be it for us. I'm not expecting a lot, just because the team is so streaky. The team can't decide if they want to be the best team in the league or the worst team in the league, and that's why they sit where they sit in the standings at 6-6. Again, I think we can win the first match. I do think Hangzhou is beatable. We've done it twice. Just depends on MN3 and Zest and Carpe and basically the entire team playing to their standards. And you know, MN3 especially with his hit scan heroics against Seoul. More of that, please. But after that, it gets a little fuzzy. Now, can they make a run and shock everyone and win these finals? Absolutely, they could. They absolutely could. But history shows that somewhere along the line, the Fusion dropped the ball. They can't ever win the big one. That's the big meme. Always has been since the beginning of the Overwatch League, when they got to the grand finals and were the runners up to London. So I'm confident that they could maybe make a splash, but I do think that the finals are just out of their reach, to the point where I don't think they're going to get any more than like 2 or if they get 3 wins, I will be very satisfied. Do I think this is going to be a kickoff clash thing where they get all the way to the finals and lose? No. I think there are way too many teams in their way for that to happen. They only had to win, one match to get to the grand finals last time? That's not a big, tall order. They would have to win, let's say, if they stay in the winners' side and they win, and they go undefeated into the finals, that's 4 matches. If they lose one, that would be 5 or 6 matches, depending. It's a tall order for a team like this, who with a lack of consistency, a young team really, what you would expect from a team made up of a lot of rookies, where 3 or 4 of the players are rookies, including 3 starters. And because of that, I don't see the Fusion really going too far in this, but if they get hot, man, if they blow the doors off Hangzhou and then surprise whoever picks them in the first round, then who knows? Sky's the limit. But I think by Wednesday or Thursday, we will no longer be talking about the Fusion in the Midseason Madness tournament, and it will go to the finals on Saturday night. So the schedule, the way it works is there are 4 matches starting Monday, again, 7, 8:30, 10, and 11:30. Same on Tuesday for the winners round 2, basically taking whoever was selected versus top 4 seeds. Then the losers round 2 will be Wednesday, same times. Winners round 3 and losers round 3 will take place on Thursday. Winners round 4 and losers round 4 on Friday, and then losers round 5 on Friday as well. So the losers bracket matches on Friday will actually be whoever wins the first one will have to play another one the same day. 2 matches in one day. That's brutal. And then whoever's coming from the losers bracket into the grand finals will have to do the same thing, because the way Saturday schedules work is 7 o'clock is the losers finals, losers round 6, and then 8:30 is the grand finals. So say your Fusion are making a run through the losers bracket and they get to the losers finals, they're on the final day of competition. They have to win 2 straight matches in order to win the entire tournament. That, again, tall order. If they're going to get into the grand finals, I think it's going to be in a shocking 4-game winning streak throughout the winners finals. If they go to the losers bracket, I just don't see it happening. Now, if I had to pick a winner of this, looking at who has qualified so far, LA Gladiators and Seoul Dynasty were the 2 winners of the kickoff clash. So they're strong teams, one from the west, one from the east. You can never discount San Francisco, ever, in these Overwatch League tournaments. No matter what they do, the team is just too well run, too much of a well-oiled machine to ignore in this situation. But if I'm sitting right here, right now, I think I'm leaning, actually, towards those LA Gladiators to take this tournament. I think that whoever they choose in the after the winners round run is played on Monday, I think they're going to beat them, and then I think they can beat the winner of Seoul, probably Seoul, in that next match. I think Seoul is not as good as the LA Gladiators. I think the top tier of the Eastern region is not quite as good as the top tier of Western region, and LA and San Francisco both sit in there. So I think the Gladiators will then make it to winners round 4, probably against San Francisco, and there's your toss-up. I think LA can win that. If they go to the losers bracket from there, I still think they can survive and make it to the grand finals. And I will take the LA Gladiators sitting right here in the Midseason Madness tournament. Now, by this time next week, episode 105, a lot of this will have been played. In fact, by the time I record losers round 4 and 5, Thursday night's action will be happening. I can update you live as, quote-unquote, live as I'm recording this. So we'll see what's going on there. But LA Gladiators are going to be my pick for the Midseason Madness tournament. Feel free to tell me I am wrong on Twitter at BigManFinelli. Give me your predictions, and then go fill out the perfect pick and bracket. And if you can pick all the winners of these matches, plus the scores, the map scores for each match, you could find yourself $50,000 richer by the end of next week. The odds of that happening, very slim. Picking perfect brackets are very difficult. Ask anyone who's ever done a March Madness bracket in their life. But still, the chance is there. And if you don't get a perfect bracket, but you're still the highest scoring bracket, 5K is not a bad payday either. So go check that out. And Midseason Madness begins next Monday night, 7 o'clock p.m. on the Overwatch League YouTube channel. First match being Atlanta and London. Your Philadelphia Fusion play at 11:30 p.m. Monday night. Coming up after the break, we're going to talk about the big news that I missed on my vacation week, because there was enough big news to fill an entire segment. The Jason Goes on Vacation news streak is alive and well. Stick around. All right, welcome back to Cheesesteaks and Controllers, episode number 104. The Midseason Madness tournament has been covered. Go Fusion, although I'm not very confident in the Fusion. But let's move on now to the vacation catch-up. A couple of interesting news bits that happened while I was on vacation last week. 5, actually, sprung up throughout the week. One, the reemergence of a game that has not been seen for multiple years. One, we finally get a release date on a big-time game, which is what I'll start with. But I do have 5 headlines from last week that I want to go through real quick and read some news on those. So let's start with the big release date announcement. After much speculation and potential leaks and a Twitter account called The Insider pissing off all of the internet, God of War Ragnarok did receive a release date of November the 9th, 2022. It will make this year after some fears that it might not. But it is coming this year. It is on its way. Sony Santa Monica, PlayStation wrote big blogs about it. The 30-second little teaser trailer, probably the commercial that'll play in the run-up to it, like on Sunday Night Football and stuff like that. That came out as well. And also the pre-orders go live 1 hour after this posts. So this episode will post at 9 a.m. on the 15th. Pre-orders for God of War Ragnarok go live at 10 a.m. So if you're listening to this podcast as it goes live, then you should get the pre-order page ready for whatever version that you want and get on it, because it is going to be a huge, huge deal immediately. There are 4 different versions of Ragnarok to pre-order: Digital, Deluxe, Standard, 2 different Collector's Editions, including the Jotnar Edition. I'm pretty sure that's how you say it, like Jotnar, with a replica, 16-inch replica of Mjolnir, Thor's hammer, the God of War Ragnarok version, not the Marvel version, which is very, very cool. Honestly, the one I'm probably going to be pulling for, although I don't know how much it's going to be yet. They haven't announced any prices, but that hammer looks very, very cool. I have been waiting for this game since I beat 2018's God of War. It is the cliffhanger that it leaves you on is incredible. That game is incredible. If you've never played 2018 God of War, it is just absolutely phenomenal. And I highly suggest that you do pick that up. But to see this game finally get a release date in this year is awesome. And honestly, after what started as if I could just sidetrack here for a second, what started as a much maligned year in gaming, thanks to the ever-present pandemic, let's call it, since it doesn't seem to want to go away, which, that's another discussion for another day. The back end of the year is going to be quite prolific as far as releases are concerned, even with all of the delays and everything else that's happened throughout this year. Now, it has been a banner year already with Elden Ring, obviously, and for VR fans, you got Moss Book 2. Nintendo fans got Kirby and the Forgotten Land. There have been games for every console. There have been games for every type of player. It has been a good year, but the back end of the year just gets stronger and stronger by the day. Yes, this week, in fact, as I mentioned in the 6 and 60 seconds, Bayonetta 3 got a date of October 28th. So if we're looking at October, November, and December here, October, we have Marvel's Midnight Suns, we have Plague Tale Requiem, Mario and Rabbids Sparks of Hope, we have Scorn, we have Persona 5 coming to PlayStation 5, Xbox, and Switch, for those who haven't played that yet, Gotham Knights, High on Life, which is the Squanch Games game coming soon, Bayonetta 3, as I mentioned, on the same day as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, on the same day as Resident Evil's DLC, October 28th is stacked, and then we move into November, where we'll get into a future story, God of War Ragnarok, Valkyrie Elysium, Company of Heroes 3, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Pentiment is supposed to be November, that medieval painting-looking game, Harvestella, the secret RPG/Harvest Moon game from Square Enix, sorry about that, and then December, Callisto Protocol, and Dragon Quest Treasures, and then whatever Jeff Keighley's going to do at Keighley Fest. Not to mention Gamescom in August. The year still has plenty to go, where some folks might have written it off after so many delays and games coming out of it. And God of War Ragnarok is going to be the anchor at the end, just as Elden Ring was the driving force at the beginning. There is no in like a lion, out like a lamb here. This is all lions bookending the year. And having a date on God of War Ragnarok is absolutely awesome. But in the same vein, there was another delay on July the 6th, the same day that God of War Ragnarok's release date was announced. And it is a game that was delayed again. We're talking about Forspoken, Square Enix's new adventure game by Luminous Productions. That really, really cool looking. It was originally called Project Athia. Has the woman taken from the normal world to basically to a fantastical world with dragons and stuff like that. Very isekai if you're an anime fan. But they're not going in the past. You're just going to an alternate reality. It's not quite an isekai, but whatever. But yes, Square did announce that the game will be launching now January 24th, 2023. We'll start 2023 off with a new IP bang, day after my birthday. Very excited to play that. The note from the Forspoken Twitter account said, as a result of ongoing discussions with key partners, we have made the strategic decision to move the launch date of Forspoken to January 24, 2023. All game elements are now complete, and development is in its final polishing phase. So the way that sounds is the game was ready to come out in October, but they're holding it a couple of months because of what I just mentioned, the end of the year being so stacked. They didn't want this new IP to get lost in the shuffle. They're putting a lot of there's a lot of chips on the table for this game with Square Enix, and they want to make sure it comes out in the best window it can for it to be to have the spotlight on it, the brightest spotlight on it, I should say. So I think it's a smart move. I do. I'm disappointed because I do want to try it, but I think it's a smart decision to get it out of the very crowded January 2022 end of the year and move it into the beginning of next year. So then the question is, what does the beginning of next year look like? And right now there's nothing. January 24th is Forspoken. January 27th is the Dead Space remake. Those are the only two. There's nothing in their way. Obviously, they're very close together, so the fact that they're sitting so close together does not bode well for either one. But I don't expect January to load up any more than that. So I think that was a smart move. I think that was a smart business decision by Square Enix that I think will pay off, actually. I do believe this is going to pay off for them, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they have going there. And then the final piece of news for the July 6th trifecta while I was out on vacation was that Nintendo Switch's OLED Splatoon 3 edition will release the same about a month before the game comes out, or about 2 weeks before the game comes out. Special edition OLED Switch. I believe it's the first special OLED that they have put out since that OLED launched earlier this year. $360, so $10 more than usual with special Joy-Cons and a special dock. Has squid graffiti on it, big neon yellow splotches. The Joy-Cons are like a purple gradient color and then a yellow to green gradient with symbols on them as well. Very striking looking console. Also a special Splatoon 3 Pro controller coming with the same sort of graffiti-esque symbols and special blue and yellow handles. So if you're a Splatoon fan and you're looking forward to Splatoon 3, this special Switch OLED model, if you haven't upgraded yet, might be up your alley. And it'll be just in time for when the game comes out about 2 weeks later on September 9th. Not one that I am particularly jazzed about, but it does open up the possibility of an OLED version of the Switch themed around Scarlet and Violet. Pokemon Scarlet and Violet coming out in November. And if that happens, I may open my wallet. May not be able to resist a Pokemon Scarlet and Violet version of the OLED, but the fact that this Splatoon OLED exists, pretty cool. And fans, if you're a fan of that, go snatch it up. Not for me, but I do hope that there will be somebody out there who wants that. And then that was the end of July 6th. July 6th, they finally we were able to settle down, do other things, wake up the next day to something that was technically teased a couple of days before, so we knew it was coming. That is Skull and Bones, the pirate game by Ubisoft that was built out of the naval combat aspects of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag and Rogue. Had been announced way back in like 2016, 2017 for the first time. Playable demos at E3's 2017 and 2018, if I recall, both 2017 and 2018. Yeah, that sounds right. But it disappeared for a long time. There was no news about it for years. And then suddenly, last week, it resurfaces with a brand new gameplay trailer. It gets a launch date of November 8th, which unfortunately is right next to God of War Ragnarok. So good luck, Skull and Bones. But I personally loved the naval combat in Assassin's Creed 4. Assassin's Creed 4 is up there and one of my favorites in that franchise, and I've played mostly all of them, and most of them to completion. The only ones I haven't actually beaten yet are Odyssey and Valhalla, just because they're gigantic. But I did beat Origins, and I've beaten everyone before that, the main series before that. So the naval combat in Rogue and Black Flag was incredible, and the fact that they're going to get their own game and their own story around it, super, super cool. So the article on GameSpot by Eddie McCooch, one of the great writers over there, he mentions that it will be released one day before God of War Ragnarok on November the 9th, And they also announced that there will be cross-play and cross-progression across all the platforms. In Skull and Bones, players are on a journey to become a pirate kingpin and will grow their ill repute by taking part in naval combat in a variety of settings. Players will take contracts, gather resources, and customize their naval fleets that are specifically inspired by the end of the 17th century, known to be the Second Golden Age of piracy. There was also a preview. There was some hands-on previews that were out, and Jordan Ramey, I think it's Ramey, I don't know how, I probably should know how to say that. He's only one of my editors. Where it basically says, if sailing the high seas as Edward Kenway was your favorite part of Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, then Skull and Bones is likely for you, which is exactly what I want to hear. Very excited to see what goes on with this game. Glad to see it's finally re-emerging after so much time. Is it unfortunate that it's coming out one day before God of War and we'll probably get lost in that shuffle, which is what Forspoken was trying to avoid? Yes, that is unfortunate. But I feel like it's the kind of game where, because of its multiplayer and because it's co-op sort of idea, once people beat God of War, as long as it's good and the systems are good and the people are enjoying playing it, it may be something you can come back to, right? It might not be something that you would just have to desert for God of War. Then again, people don't have, they only have so much time to split between all the different games they want to play, and if God of War is that good, maybe it won't be able to get out of that shadow. I'm hoping it does. The more the games succeed, the better we all are for it, especially new IPs, because of a new IP like this, although it's technically not a new IP, it's an offshoot, not called Assassin's Creed, but it's based off of something that was in an Assassin's Creed. But if a new IP like this can succeed, it means other new IP can succeed, other companies will see that, and we'll still see new ideas as opposed to joining with the many sequels that we see. And that can only be a good thing. So, Skull and Bones, November 8th, November 9th, 8th, sorry. November 8th, get that pirate stuff on, finally, after so long of not hearing anything. And then finally, the last big nugget of news from last week while I was gone, a huge one for me personally, because I love this event. I have attended it many, many years. I will always sing the praises of this event, even when others doubt it. And I am excited to be able to say that E3 has confirmed that it will make its return in the second week of June 2023, live from the LA Convention Center. And the ESA, the Entertainment Software Association, who runs E3, has offshot the running of the convention to ReedPop, who runs PAX, who runs Star Wars Celebration, who runs New York Comic Con, and more. ReedPop is partnering with the ESA to make this happen in the second week of June. They have not said the specifics of the second week of June, but if it's anything like the past, the core show will be Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then the other stuff will happen around it, like Microsoft on Sunday and the Monday stuff and all that. So wherever it'll fit in, it is confirmed for the second week of June 2023. Now, as Darren Bothas for GameSpot writes, ReedPop says that it has listened to feedback from the gaming community, will honor the E3 elements that have always worked, and will reshape the parts that haven't been well received. Following reports of a toxic environment rife with internal politics, witch hunts, and infighting by Variety in 2019, it was rumored that ReedPop made an offer to take over E3, but it didn't happen then, obviously for many reasons. Pandemic is one of them. And E3's presence these past couple of years, because of the pandemic, has shrunk. Summer Game Fest has risen, and Jeff Keighley has said he's going to have a live event as well, so we'll see what happens there. The aforementioned pandemic, E3 2021 was digital only. E3's 2020 and 2022 were completely canceled. So we'll see if 2023's event can bring E3 back. I think it can. I think there is something to be said, and I say this a lot. There is something to be said about the big chunk of news that happens during an E3, where everything happens all at once in that week. And yeah, there's a lot of noise, right? There's a lot of different companies competing for your attention in that week. but it doesn't feel like a marathon. It doesn't feel like we're getting, different news here and there willy-nilly. There is a condensed week of news to look forward to, and I think that is better for the industry as a whole, to have a major event like this where all of the companies come together and show off their stuff, and we just celebrate video games for a week. I think it's the best way to do it. It always has been, and it will continue to be that way. I am old-fashioned in a sense, and maybe I'm a little biased because I like going to this thing, but I just feel like there is something to be said about that central event that is just for video games to happen in Los Angeles with all the pomp and circumstance. The press conferences, the demos, the show floor, all of that. I think this is the year that E3 returns to prominence. I think that as it gets closer, people will get more excited. I think that absence has made the hearts grow fonder, whether people want to admit it or not. And I feel like this show will be huge. I don't know. I feel it. Maybe it's a false sense of hope. I don't know what it is. But I have a feeling that this show is going to come out and be gangbusters, put E3 back on the map, and with Reed Pop at the helm, I think it's going to be in a good place. They just need to go back and see what made it work in the mid 2010 in the 2010s, from like 2010 to 2017, before PlayStation left, or before PlayStation's like 2018, like they didn't really try at their booth and stuff like that. And they also have to woo those companies back. Activision has to come back. EA has to come back. Sony has to come back. They have to have one giant convention hall filled with third parties, and then the other convention hall filled with the first parties again. That iconic shot that is always shown when talking about E3 of PlayStation's booth on one side of the aisle and Xbox's booth on the other side of the aisle, and two signs facing each other. We need that again. I don't know what Reed Pop has to do to convince them to be in that room, but they need to do it. That is the challenge. For me, in my eyes, the biggest challenge is E3 getting those companies back. If they can do that, if they can get those big rockin' companies to have those gigantic booths again, and then have all of the smaller or indie sections and smaller AA developers and stuff like that, that's where the money is. That's the sweet spot. That's where E3 will return to prominence. But that's what Reed Pop has to do to make it happen. We'll see. There's time will tell. But for now, E3 2023 is confirmed. Second week of June, Los Angeles Convention Center. Your boy will be there. Cheesesteaks and Controllers, first ever E3, huh? Let's start planning now, shall we? Very excited to see that happen. But coming up after the break, let's talk about esports appealing to the casual fan based on the tweet that came out about League of Legends earlier this week. I think it's an interesting discussion to have, and I'm going to have it on this show after the break. Stick around. All right, welcome back to Cheesesteaks and Controllers, episode number 104. Coming into our last segment of the show. I almost said episode 3. That's wrong. So we talked about Midseason Madness. We talked about the headlines from last week while I was away. Now we're going to talk about esports and the casual fan. So Ashley Kang, co-founder of Horizon Esports, a company that bridges League of Legends and LCK news and brings it to the rest of the world. The Korean League of Legends league being a very, very big one in the market. Tweeted this at 3 o'clock on July 12th, earlier this week. She said, discussion: has League of Legends become too complicated for its esports segment to become entertainment for the mass? Riot Games often refers to their goal of League of Legends becoming like football or baseball, but is League now too complicated for the general audience? And then she goes on to say, I do not think we should compare the complexity of League to Dota 2 if the discussion is whether League aspires to transcend beyond a MOBA and become the next football or baseball. And I agree with that part of it. But I do want to talk about the first part of it. I do think that League of Legends is too complicated for the general audience as it is portrayed now. And the issue is finding a way to make that translation from what's happening in the show to the person who's never played League before happen. That bridge needs to be built. And it needs to be built in a way that they can understand it. I in response to this, I quoted her tweet, and I put up, first I said, I've said this time and time again on Cheesesteaks and Controllers, the biggest hurdle in esports is its disinterest in catering to new viewers or players. There is a reason that I say fighting games are the future of esports. You get clear and concise information just by glancing at the screen. And I put up 2 screenshots. One is from the official League of Legends LCS YouTube channel, the North American YouTube channel. And then I put up a picture from CEO 2022 Tekken 7 tournament from the official Bandai Namco Esports channel. And the two of them next to each other, the amount of information that you have to take from the League of Legends screen can be very intimidating to someone who's never seen it before. You see all these pictures on the sides of the names of the players, the characters that they're using, the weapons that they have equipped, the abilities that they've used and where they are in their cooldowns. And then you have gold numbers. You have items that have been equipped. There is so much information that needs to be taken in just by glancing at this screen. There's, in every direction, there is information to be had, at least 10 pieces of information, with the exception of the top, where it's just gold count and, match count and records and symbols and stuff like that. But, like, at the bottom of the screen here, I'm looking at, there are 5 different players on each team, 5 different heroes. I see all the items that they've equipped so far. I see a bunch of numbers that may not mean anything to someone who doesn't know, like 2/0/0. What is that? I know what it is, but a casual fan's not going to know. The map on the right-hand side is just a bunch of blue and red symbols, not describing what it is. Now, granted, you cannot expect every broadcast to basically be a tutorial of League of Legends. That, I understand, is impossible. I would never expect something like that from a official League of Legends broadcast. But there is too much information on this screen for a casual fan. There are things that may not necessarily need to be known by someone who's never played the game before. One of them being the equipable items. It is a staple of the MOBA genre. Yes. But why do you need to clutter your screen for your YouTube channel with that information? If people are watching on League, the LCS website, the hardcore LCS fans, give them all that information. You already do give them all that information. In fact, if I go watch an LCS match, if I go watch a VOD, a video on demand of an LCS match, that information updates for me outside of the video window. I get it all in front of me. I can click on it as it's happening. Fully interactive. One of the best esports suites that there is, but it's on their main website for the hardcore fans who want to dig into this stuff, or a casual fan who wants to explore what all this stuff means. But on the base YouTube channel, I don't think that information is necessary. Now, if you want to highlight a player who just made a big play and like put up their picture and what they have equipped and stuff like that, kind of like how they show when a football player makes a big play, they have like his stats last couple of games or whatever. Fine, great, that makes perfect sense. But looking at this right now, the map is necessary, the team information at the top is necessary, gold count can stay, number of matches 1 can stay, the teams and their records can stay. The timers need to be a little more concise. Like, there's a purple, I believe it's Baron Nashor's symbol is up there. I know what that is. Does anybody else? Just say Baron or something. It's just that this league is too catered to people who already know what they're doing. You need to find a bridge for the folks that don't. And people will say, no, you don't, and they'll put up their gates and they'll start to guard them with their lives. League of Legends doesn't need those people. Yes, they do. All sports need casual fans who don't understand the the full intricacies of the game in order to succeed. If all you're going to get is, hardcore fans to watch these things, then you're never going to grow. You're never going to grow as a league if you don't start to bring in casual fans and start to get them excited about League of Legends. Now, I'm saying this about a league, about a game that frequently boasts some of the highest viewership records ever. So they're doing a great job. Don't get me wrong, but they can do better, right? They can do better to cater to the people who don't know what any of this means. And by contrast, let's look at the fighting game screen. So, I am looking at this screenshot that I took. I see that there are 2 characters on screen, Armor King and Julia. I see that it's a first to 3, so a best of 5. Armor King already has 1 round. There's 60 seconds on the clock. The one player, the American player, Raider, has not won a match in the series yet. The player on the right, /Steel, the American player, has also not won a match in this series yet. We are in the pools part of the tournament, which means we're still in like the mini tournaments. We're still a big part of the player base. And at the bottom of the screen, I see that this is part of Tekken World Tour 2022. That's all the information that's on screen, and it's all the information I need. It's all there. Everything. There's no overcomplication. There's no frame data on the sides of the screen. There's no button presses that you can see exactly what they're pressing at any given time. None of that's there because it doesn't need to be. They're broadcasting to the casual audience, and it's perfect. Now, granted, in a fighting game, there is inherently less knowledge. I get that. There's less information that needs to be broadcast. This is the only information that needs to be broadcast. But I would argue that, like I said before, there are things on that League of Legends screen that don't need to be there. Make a casual stream. Make a casual channel. Make a separate channel with a separate layout specifically for people who are new. You want to build this league. You want to build the game even more than it already is. And this is how you do it. You have one of the most successful esports in the entire world. You want to make it like football or baseball? I think you're already in FIFA level as far as esports is concerned. You're the FIFA of esports. You're the soccer of esports, the Premier League, the whatever you want to call it, the Champions League. That's what you are. You could be even bigger. You could be the World Cup every single year. All you got to do is make it easier for the folks who don't know what your game is to understand it when they watch. Lower the barrier of entry. Lower the wall. Open the gate. Let them see what your game is, and they will come. It's that simple. Fighting games, I've said it before and said it again, whoever organizes a competition where teams of players come together, kind of like how they already do at EVO and CEO and stuff like that, but you organize a league around it where teams can register or teams can sign players in certain games, which again they already do, and you basically just make the different games the weight classes of a UFC style event, and you start to bring in personalities and you start to enhance those things. You mix a little pro wrestling in there with promos and stuff like that, kind of like what Jabali's doing at CEO, where they had to have entrances and they fight their finals matches in a wrestling ring. Brilliant, by the way. The first company to create and run a UFC style fighting game league where the weight classes are different fighting games will take esports over, because it is the easiest game to translate to non-viewers, non-players. It's that simple. Now, will that ever happen? I don't know. As my good friend of the show, Will English, mentioned to me in reply to my statement, he said that, where did it go? I know you're here somewhere, Willie. Where is that screen? Where is that reply to me? Where did you go? There it is. There will never be that level of support for fighting games. It may be simple to understand, but the 1v1 nature of it does it make it complex enough to dedicate full-time resources to? And I disagree. I think the fact that it's not that complex is a perfect reason to dedicate full-time resources, because it makes the casual viewer, it's the easiest to understand for the casual viewer. It's just that simple. A couple other folks that replied to me and banging that drum for years. There's absolutely no effort being made to onboard new viewers, leaving it up to other viewers to explain the game to newbies, which is not ideal for obvious reasons. That's correct. Another person responded, I remember spending like 2 or 3 nights watching a Street Fighter tournament and feeling like I could at least discern or slightly predict what was about to happen by the finale. And that is right. That's what you need. You need people who have no idea what the heck it is on Friday to be invested by Sunday. And fighting games can do that. I don't think League can do that. Not the way it is now. It needs to figure out a way to cater more to casual viewers. It does. There's too much stuff on that screen. There's too much going on. And the matches are way too long, but that kind of has to be that way. It's just the way the game plays out. Every match taking 45 minutes to an hour is tough for someone who's marathoning these things. But, that's what VODs are for, and that's just the nature of the game. I don't think it's ever going to change. If they can make a bite-sized league, that would work too, but I'm not so much worried about actual game time. I think people who are invested will sit through, no matter how long the matches are. But that's it. That's my rant about League of Legends. League of Legends is the target, because that's what was mentioned, but esports in general not being very good at catering to new fans. I think Overwatch is a offender here. I think Call of Duty League is an offender here, though less so. Their HUDs have figured out how to make things, how to present a lot more information more concisely, but I still think there may be some issues with A, too much information on the screen, and B, motion sickness folks who can't play first-person games, not being able to watch first-person perspectives. I think they should lean more on the third-person sweeping camera shots and less on the first-person perspectives. The gamers, not the gamers, the fans, the hardcore fans of these games appreciate the first-person view. They like seeing the action up close. But to someone who, again, has motion sickness and cannot do that, I think that there is some opportunity in perhaps a motion sickness-centric stream where it's just the third-person shots. But that's another discussion for another day. With that, we are at the end of episode number 104 of the Cheesesteaks and Controllers podcast, presented by Fox, PHL The Gambler, 102.5 FM, 1480 AM, and iHeartRadio. If you are listening to these specific words, you have made it to the end of the show, and I am forever grateful that you are here. Thank you so much for your time, for your attention, and for your interest. I hope you learned something. I hope you were entertained. I hope you're now excited for all the cool things that are coming out soon. I hope you're looking forward to the Midseason Madness, God of War Ragnarok, Forspoken, even though you have to wait a little longer than you thought, Skull and Bones, E3. It's going to be a good time. Always a good time for gamers, and the good times are just getting better, which is also true for this show. Episode 105 next week, I was able to sit down with 2 developers at PolyArc to talk about Moss Book 2. I believe it was announced coming to Quest 2 soon. I think it was announced back in June that it would be coming to Quest 2. And I was able to sit down with 2 of those developers to talk about that. Great discussion. Looking forward to sharing it all with you next week. But until then, I hope you have a fabulous weekend. I hope you have an even better week right behind it. And I will be back next week with more of the best and brightest news in video games and esports. Thank you so much for listening, and goodbye.